like to invite Mr. Purush Chowdhury. Oh, Mrs. Purush Chowdhury, thank you.
So glad to start this off from me being a mister. But nevertheless, we see so many misters sitting in this hall. We also have with us George Ilama, who is the global president of Eisenhower Fellowship Program. It's a global network of different fellows around the world, and they do some incredible work. So George, I've heard that you recently just met the president. How's the jet lag? Not the two that are connected?
Jet lag? Where am I? What's my name? No, we had the honor of visiting President Hussein with a group of our Eisenhower Fellows from Pakistan and our visiting fellow, Maria Tsehai, who you all heard from yesterday from Tanzania. And I was able to tell the President about Eisenhower Fellowships a little bit. We're an independent, non-governmental, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization based in the United States in Philadelphia that brings outstanding leaders from all over the world to the United States and American leaders mid-career from all fields overseas. And we've had Eisenhower Fellows from Pakistan from the first year of the program in 1954. It was founded as a birthday present to President Eisenhower. And we discussed a little bit about our work for 65 years now in Pakistan and our commitment to continue working here.
That's excellent. You know, I got your profile, and I was so fascinated with all the honors and Pulitzer Prizes. Would you want to tell us, like, how do you actually see life?
Well, I don't know what you're referring to. I'm a recovering journalist who spent my life asking sometimes stupid questions for a living and sometimes enraging leaders of both of our political parties back home in the United States very happily. And the way I see life, I'm the son of immigrants in the United States and from very hardworking people. And at an early age, I learned that life is short time here and a long time gone, and it's best to fill it up. My grandmother, who in her teens was a competitive diver in Havana, Cuba, in her 70s rode a camel in Morocco. And she said to me, "Mijo, my son, dying is easy. The hard part is knowing how to live." So I've tried to follow that ever since.
So that's quite interesting. Have you now found out how is it that you're going to live and how you're going to fill it up?
Well, I've always been attracted to the kind of work, just like our Eisenhower Fellows, where if you do well, you do some good. In my past lives as a journalist, and later I worked in international development in Latin America, that was always very attractive to me, and that is the mission of Eisenhower Fellowships. It was born as an organization to enhance international understanding and create a world that's more peaceful, prosperous, and just. So our fellows, who are leaders from all fields around the world, government, business, civil society, science, health, education, the arts, we even take journalists. Our fellows around the world are all bound by their determination to better their societies.
Can you tell us a bit about, like, how does the fellowship program sort of operates in Pakistan, and who are your key go-to people here?
Well, we've had a number of fellows. One of them is sitting right here in the room. I see Dr. Shahid Mahmood. I think I saw Dr. Bari Khan there. He is sitting there. We've had a number of distinguished fellows here. Ahmad Jalal was just here. Farzana Yaqub. I could go on and on. I will miss somebody. But the way our fellows, they're nominated by a nominating committee that consists of our fellows and other prominent citizens in Pakistan who submit their candidacies to us in Philadelphia, where the organization is located. And the deal is, if you're an Eisenhower Fellow, you have a commitment to stay engaged with the organization for the rest of your life. We have a requirement that all our fellows have to have projects of impact that have a real world impact in their societies, and they also have to mentor, because that's very important to us as well as a way to maximize our impact. I'll just say, in Pakistan, we have a very distinguished fellows. Our fellows network around the world is about 1,600 fellows, includes the current governor of the central bank in Thailand, the minister of planning and economic development in Indonesia, former vice minister of education in China, We have a three-star general in China, a woman. She's the third highest ranking woman in the military in China. The mayor of Seoul, South Korea, the former governor of the Saudi Arabian General Investment Authority. It's this level caliber of leaders who we deal with around the world.
So that's amazing. And you have those regional programs that actually just specifically focuses on Africa and Middle East and South Asia. My question would be, like, how do you see, could you give us an example about the kind of impacts that you've had as a program?
Well, there are many examples over the history, the distinguished history of this organization. I'll just give you one example of a real-world way that Eisenhower Fellows connect across borders. Shahid Mahmood, our fellow here in Pakistan, reached out to me about 1.5 years ago at a time of great tension between Pakistan and India. I had just actually been in India, in Punjab, on the Indian side of the border, and the week where 18 Indian troops were killed and the surgical strikes happened on this side, and so I saw firsthand the tensions there. Shahid and one of our fellows in India, Raman Madhak, whose family originally was from Punjab on what's now the Pakistani side of the border, they came to me and they said, you know, we'd like to have a dialogue between Indian and Pakistani fellows. We can't do it in Pakistan, we can't do it in India, but if we did it in a regional basis with fellows from Sri Lanka and Bangladesh and we put it in Dubai, what would you think of that? Would you support it? And I said, absolutely, because that's what we do, that's why we exist as an organization. So they led the way. They organized in a very short period of time, in a couple of months, a really dynamic conference about South Asia rising and all the different kinds of connectivity that there are in the region. Economic connectivity, technological connectivity, cultural connectivity, and political connectivity which could come later. We had 239 participants in the conference, from high-ranking people from Pakistan, the Deputy Foreign Minister of Sri Lanka, who's an Eisenhower Fellow, a very senior person in IT in the Indian establishment, and also from China, who came to talk about their Belt and Road Initiative before it was publicly announced. It was an amazing conference, and afterwards, we have a fellow in India who was the head of IT there, who in the country, who said, you know, George, Eisenhower Fellowships is the one forum where India, China, Pakistan can all be in the room and talk. And so this is an important channel, and this work is going to be continued. We were just in Sri Lanka a couple of weeks ago, and there's work underway with our fellows in Pakistan and our fellows in India to have another South Asia conference in Sri Lanka next year. In Dubai, the way the conference ended is I brought two fellows from Ireland who had an amazing experience on their fellowship in 1989. Eisenhower Fellowships paired 7 fellows from the north and 7 fellows from the Republic of Ireland in the south. And they were all together, and then they continued those relationships after the fellowship. And 8 years later, 2 of them found themselves sitting across the table from each other, negotiating the Good Friday Peace Accords. One was the Chief of Staff for David Trimble, the leader of Northern Ireland. The other was the Chief of Staff for Bertie Ahern, who was the Prime Minister of Ireland. And when those negotiations, which seemed impossible at the time, when they resulted in the peace that is still held in Ireland, it was because they had relationships of trust they had built through our program. So we brought the 2 of them to Dubai to speak to our fellows from South Asia and talk about how they did it and how they accomplished what seemed impossible back then. So that's one way of very concrete impact. And we have other fellows, Shahid and Dr. Khan, they founded the Indus Hospital here in Karachi, which gives free medical service, healthcare to impoverished Pakistanis. We have fellows in Sri Lanka who go around the villages and meet their unmet social needs, whether it's clean water or sanitation facilities. In Taiwan, our fellows run a youth camp that brings young people from mainland China to Taiwan for 3 weeks, and young people from Taiwan to mainland China. They've been doing this for 7 years now. They've sent more than 700 young leaders, university age, back and forth. They've even had some marriages result from it. There are many examples all over the world, but just some that I can mention off the top of my head.
Sort of plugging this one in, you have such an amazing network of these fellows. How would you define leadership?
To me, leadership is service. Leadership is bringing together a group of people around a common purpose. Again, I've always been attracted to the kind of work where if you do well, you do some good. And that's the mission of the organization. And when you can empower the people you work with and put them in a position to succeed, to achieve a common good, that's the kind of leadership that I think that matters and that makes a difference. And the kind of leadership when we look at headlines around the world that we need more than ever right now.
That's great, but when you say more than ever right now, how has your thinking transformed, since you joined this organization?
When I first joined the organization, since I've joined, we've added this requirement that fellows have to have a concrete project of real world impact and they have to mentor. And it was driven by one of our fellows who said to me, this thing is a sleeping giant, what can we do with it? And so everything we do is intended to maximize our impact and to act as a platform to connect like-minded leaders in different parts of the world so that they can collaborate on projects. My wife and I were just in Indonesia a couple of weeks ago, and we were there at the time there was big news in the newspapers. One of our fellows is an urban planner in Spain, met with another one of our fellows who is the Minister of Planning and Economic Development in Indonesia, and they came up with a plan to create 10 different, on 10 different islands in Indonesia, ecotourism, sustainable ecotourism. They want to create 10 Balis. And this is a project that had its genesis within Eisenhower Fellowships, and now it's going to lead to the economic and social advancement of Indonesia. So we try to make these connections and catalyze this kind of engagement.
So you get these insights from over 1,000 fellows. How do you see the global future evolve, say by 2050?
You know, we live in an interesting time, and I think your planning minister mentioned this yesterday. We live in a time when the headlines are all lurid. It's a time of soaring markets but increasing inequality. It is a time of deepening globalization yet growing great power rivalry. It's a time when angry populist politics are dominating the sort of the ecosystem all over the world. Yet in country after country, we're seeing at the same time a desire for civility, for greater civility and decency in our politics. We certainly are in my country. So it's a time of great paradox, and at a time when there has been so much human advancement, many people feel left out. But President Obama, I brought it, so I thought his words.
Speech.
Well, a couple of years ago, he said, before our last presidential election, he just said, if you look closely, we're fortunate to be living in the most peaceful, most prosperous, most progressive era in human history. It's been decades since the last war between major powers. More people live in democracies. We're wealthier and healthier and better educated, with a global economy that has lifted up more than 1 billion people from extreme poverty. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes. These are some of the trend lines that get lost amid the headlines. And so at a time like this, for our organization and our fellows in Pakistan and around the world, we're active in more than 50 countries right now, I do think it's more important than ever, the work that we do.
That's excellent. You just recently had a Future of Work conference in Malaga. Now, when you have like billions of people connected, and that number is just going to increase over the next couple of years, how do you see the governments and the regulatory regimes respond to such radical change and such pace of technological advancement?
Well, I think you just hit on it. The pace of change is itself accelerating in an unprecedented way. And I think what we're seeing, certainly in the United States, but I'm seeing it all over the world, a lot of the most interesting and innovative public-private partnerships and multidisciplinary approaches to problem solving are happening at a local level. And so one of the roles that we're trying to play and that our fellows are doing very effectively is we can take examples of some of these solutions and serve as a platform to spread that knowledge and to exchange to other places where it can be applied somewhere else. And so what we had, you referred to, we had a conference on what we thought is one of the most pressing problems in the world, the future of work. Not just artificial intelligence, but the larger question of how do we produce sustainable, productive, fulfilling work for all the marginalized young men and women in the world over the next decade or two that will give them a stake in the future of their societies. And we brought together about 330 very smart people from 49 countries in Malaga, Spain. And it was, in the Eisenhower Fellowship fashion, it was a conference co-hosted by our fellows from Spain and our fellows from Jordan. And we did it in Malaga because it's the heart of Andalusia. And Andalusia, with its, I don't have to tell this audience, with its enormous role in Islamic history and culture. And it was a spectacular gathering because this is an issue of pressing concern in every region of the world, including in my own country.
That's amazing. You mentioned something earlier in our meeting about this innovation program. Can you tell us a bit more about, like, how did it actually start? What triggered it?
Yes. Well, one of the reasons I'm here at this conference and I'm so interested in all the discussions that have been going on the last couple of days, in Malaga we had something we called iLabs, and we had 17 Eisenhower Fellows came from all over the world to present in an interactive forum projects of impact having to do with the future of work. And then as a continuation, so that it wasn't just a conference where we were just talking, we also worked with the city of Malaga to leave a youth training program behind that was modeled after one that one of our fellows did in Philadelphia. Coming out of that conference so that we can continue the work that began there, this fall we have 2 programs international in a year. One in the spring for a global program for fellows from all over the world. The fall program is targeted by geography or sector. This fall will be innovation, and we're going to focus it on 5 different areas where we feel that we can really have an impact. One is the future of work, employment, and artificial intelligence. 2 is the related field of innovation and education. 3 is healthcare and life sciences, which is an area exploding with possibility for innovation. 4th is energy and the environment. And the 5th sector will be design, which is the 21st century field that ties the other 5 together. So we'll have about 20 to 25 fellows in this program, which means that, and they'll be from all over the world, which means that when they're done, they'll have 5 sub-cohorts of 4 or 5 fellows in each area that is a ready-made team, basically, of fellows who can collaborate on projects. And then we will connect them with our fellows of more than 1,600 around the world who already work in these areas. And it's a way, I think you'll see real projects that come out of this program that will have an impact.
That's really interesting. So imagine this is 2027. And you've been here for a couple of hours in any case, and you don't know which city you're in. That's how jet lag you are. What sort of Pakistan do you see in 2027?
Well, I've been here for a couple days, but it's been really enlightening for me to see, to hear the speakers and see a little bit the last couple days. And meet with your president, and yesterday with the ambassador designate to the United States. Had some really interesting conversations, and it's been inspiring to hear the really thoughtful approaches that we've all been exposed to here in the last couple days. And I saw a lot of serious intellectual firepower applied to the challenges, but the great opportunities at a moment that could be a turning point for Pakistan. And there was a lot of optimism in this room. And I think I walk away, I already have been very impressed through our fellows and Pakistanis I have known all my life. I've always been very impressed by the great human capital that you have here, incredibly talented, brilliant people, and which Pakistan has showed repeatedly in science and technology in all kinds of areas. And so if things break right, if not just in Pakistan, but in other countries, sort of keep our eye on the ball, as President Obama said, you know, more things are going well than are going badly, despite the fact that there are many challenges in the region. 2027, Pakistan, the statistics were mind-boggling. Pakistan, I would hope, would be living its future. But I think for that, obviously the situation in the region would need to be more stable than it is now. So there's an internal challenge and there's a challenge in the region as well. And in the second one, that's where neither Pakistan nor the United States nor anybody does that alone.
That's amazing. So you leave in a couple of hours, or are you here for another day?
We'll be leaving tomorrow.
Tomorrow. What memory or memories would you take back home of Pakistan and the people that you've met?
Well, incredible warmth and great excitement and the optimism that I saw here. A number of speakers talked about seeing the glass half full and instead of half empty, and that's definitely how I will leave.
And that's amazing. Lastly, and this is something that I found like this is a true test. What do you hope for in life?
You know, we have a saying in Spanish, quiero dejar mi granito de arena. I'd like to leave my little grain of sand. To help build something better. And that's always really resonated with me. In practical terms, my wife, Carrie, who's a very accomplished filmmaker in the United States, actually she just worked on an independent film you'll be hearing about if you haven't read about it already, called Hala, which is about Pakistani immigrant family in Chicago, our hometown. And the travails that they have navigating a new culture with an adolescent daughter in a new society. It was written about actually in the New York Times about a week ago. It's been written about in the States. So I'm rooting, my new career goal is I'm rooting for Carrie to be very successful so I can become a kept man.
That's amazing. So it's a little grain of sand. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much to our dear speaker and moderator. We'd like to ask you to please remain on stage as there will be a token of appreciation given. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite Mr. Shahid Mahmood, the chairman of Interactive Group of Companies, to please come up on stage, accompanied by our host, to hand out the token of appreciation to our speaker and our moderator. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. George Delama had previously, before being the global president of Eisenhower Fellowships, he was also a distinguished journalist, and his job had taken him to 5 continents and 60 countries. And ladies and gentlemen, please also give a big round of applause for Mrs. Purush Chowdhury, the founder and the president of Agahi and Foresight Lab. Thank you so much for our dear moderator and our speaker, and we'd like to also thank our hosts. Thank you so much. Yes, Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we indeed had a very good and very informative, insightful 2 days, 2 days of the Leaders in Islamabad Business Summit. This year, we didn't just, yes.
I will request Mr. Harun Qasim. Harun Qasim, please join us here.
Mr. Harun Qasim would like to invite you to please join us here on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a big round of applause. Thank you.
And please present the book on Pakistan to Ms. Emily.
Oh, goodness. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for this. This is such an honor.
Excellent moderation by Amelia. And this is her first visit to Pakistan. Now we will host her in Karachi.
Sorry. Thank you so much, everyone. This is such an honor. I know I'll be back to Pakistan again. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, this is it. I guess we've come to the end of the second day of Leaders in Islamabad Business Summit, Disrupting the Future. I believe that we did not only disrupt the future, because ladies and gentlemen, considering what had been delivered by our speakers and moderators these past today and yesterday, we know that not only have we disrupted the future, but they have also vowed to strive to abolish the old and maybe at times or most of the time, current times, not as successful business methods, and have pushed all of us to move forward and to create our old successes to a new interactive success, an even bigger success. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, we'd like to extend our profound gratitude and sincere thanks to everyone for your participation and for your attendance here today. Thank you so much for your support and for your attendance. Once again, I'm Amelia Yahya. I'm from CNN. Thank you so much. Please enjoy Islamabad. Thank you.